Hello boys and girls, my name is White Rhino PSO, and today we're doing something a little different. What's this, you ask? 2 uploads in one day? Now, don't get too excited just yet, because this isn't going to be a normal gameplay video. So, a few hours after finishing up my recording for part 15 of the series, I realized that by not reading out Huleeya's Notes, or the copy of the Progress of Truth that I had bought for Caius, that I was sort of glossing over some interesting information about the story of the main quest. So in today's video, we're going to fix that mistake by reading the both of them. And we're going to start off with the notes from Huleeya. The following are Huleeya's notes for Caius Cassades. The history of the Ashlanders and the Nerevarine cult. In First-era barbaric Dunmer culture, settled Dunmer clans, the Great Houses, and nomadic Dunmer tribes, like the Ashlanders, were roughly equal in number and wealth. Under the civilized peace of the Grand Council, and with the strong central authority of the Temple, the economic and military power of the settled Dunmer quickly outstripped that of the nomadic Dunmer. The nomadic Dunmer were marginalized into the poorest, most hostile land, in particular into the Vardenfell wastes. For the Ashlanders, the return of a reincarnated Nerevar represents a longed-for and largely romanticized golden age of Nerevar's peace, when the nomadic tribes enjoyed equality with the settled Dunmer, and before the Dunmer people had, for the most part, abandoned traditional ancestor worship for the autocratic theocracy of the tribunal temple. The Nerevar of the Ashlanders. This is the story of Nerevar as an Ashlander might tell it. In ancient days, the Deep Elves, which are also known as the Dwarves, and a great host of Outlanders from the west came to steal the land of the Dunmer. In that time, Nerevar was the great Khan and war leader of the House people, but he honored the ancient spirits and the tribal law, and became as one of us. So, when Nerevar pledged upon his great ring of the ancestors, one clan under Moon and Star, to honor the ways of the spirits and the rights of the land, all the tribes joined the House people to fight a great battle at Red Mountain. Though many Dunmer, tribesmen and housemen, died at Red Mountain, the Dwemer were defeated and their evil magics destroyed, and the Outlanders driven from the land. But after this great victory, the power-hungry Khans of the great houses slew Nerevar in secret, and, setting themselves up as gods, neglected Nerevar's promises to the tribes. It is said that Nerevar will come again with his ring, and cast down the false gods, and by the power of his ring will make good his promises to the tribes, to honor the spirits and drive the Outlanders from the land, the outsiders from the land. Persecution of the Nerevarine cult. The Tribunal Temple regards the mysticism and prophecy of the Nerevarine cult as primitive superstition. The Ashlander ancestor cults, and the Nerevarine in particular, have always decried the worship of living Dunmer as abominations, suspecting the unnatural lifetimes of the Tribunal to be signs of profane sorcery or necromancy. Though the authoritarian and intolerant temple priesthood has always been inclined to tolerate Ashlander ancestor cult practices, they have always threatened Nerevarine claimants with death or imprisonment, and while generally tolerant of various cult worships, the Imperial Commission of the Occupation outlaws cults hostile to the Emperor and the Empire, and threatens members of such cults with imprisonment and death. The Ordinators are allowed a free hand when dealing with outlawed cults like the Nerevarines. Peak Star and the Incarnates of the Past. In the past, others have claimed to be the reincarnated Nerevar of prophecy. The most recent is known as Peak Star, a mysterious figure who has reportedly appeared and disappeared among the Waste Tribes over the last 30 years. The temple notes that these false incarnates discredit the Nerevarine prophecies. Singularly and illogically, the Ashlanders acknowledge a history of false claimants, calling them failed incarnates, but they regard them as proof of the validity of the prophecies rather than contradiction. Among the Nerevarenes, there is a fable of a cavern of incarnates, where the spirits of the failed incarnates dwell. The Nerevarene cult is a mystical cult, and it glorifies rather than shrinks from contradictions. So the Ashlanders believe that the Nerevarene, which is the reincarnated version of Lord Nerevar, is going to come back and basically mess up the temple, because the temple worships the three Dunmer who led three of the great houses who turned themselves into God somehow. All right. And now the Progress of Truth. The Progress of Truth, compiled by the Dissident Priests. Excerpt concerning the points of temple doctrine challenged by the Dissident Priests. 1. The divinity of the tribunal. Temple doctrine claims their apotheosis was miraculously achieved through questing, virtue, knowledge, testing, and battling with evil. Temple doctrine claims their divine powers and immortality are ultimately conferred as a communal judgment by the Dunmer ancestors, including, among others, the good Daedra, the prophet Veloth, and Saint Nerevar. Dissident priests ask whether Dagoth-Ur's power and the tribunal powers might ultimately derive from the same source, Red Mountain. Sources in the Apocrypha suggest that the tribunal relied on profanely enchanted tools to achieve godhead, and those unholy devices were the ones originally created by the ungodly Dwemer, sorcerer Kagranak, to create the false construct Numidium. Number 2, the purity of the tribunal. The dissident priests say that the temple has always maintained a public face, represented by the hieroglypha, the priestly writings, and a hidden face, represented by the apocrypha, the hidden writings. The public account portrays the actions of the tribunal in a heroic light, while the hidden writings reveal secrets, untruths, inconsistencies, conflicting accounts, and varying interpretations which hint at darker and less heroic motives and actions of the tribunes. In particular, conflicting accounts of the Battle of Red Mountain raise questions about the tribunal's conduct and about the source of their subsequent apotheosis. Also, there is good evidence that the tribunal have been concealing the true nature of the threat posed by Dagoth-Ur at Red Mountain, misleading the people about the tribunal's ability to protect Morrowind from Dagoth-Ur, and concealing a recent dramatic diminishing of the tribunal's magical powers. Number 3, temple accounts of the Battle of Red Mountain. Ashlander tradition does not place the tribunal at Red Mountain and holds that the Dwemer destroyed themselves rather than Nerevar destroyed them. Ashlander tradition further holds that Nerevar left Dagoth-Ur guarding the profane secrets of Red Mountain while Nerevar went to confer with the Grand Council, i.e. the tribunal, which is made up of Almalexia, Vivek, and Sothasil. That Nerevar died at the conference, not of his wounds according to the Ashlanders, but from treachery, and that subsequently the tribunal confronted a defiant Dagoth-Ur within Red Mountain, then drove Dagoth-Ur beneath Red Mountain when he would not yield to their will. So this already paints a much different portrait of the tribunal gods. The temple wants you to believe that Almalexia, Sothasil, and Vivek became gods because they did a lot of meditating and questing and being heroic, and that the ancestors of the Dark Elf people themselves, as well as Nerevar himself, decided to turn them into gods. This suggests that instead, Nerevar found some sort of unholy tools and told Dagoth-Ur, hey, keep an eye on these. And then he went to talk to Almalexia, Sothasil, and Vivek, and that the three of them ended up killing Nerevar and then scaring Dagoth-Ur away in order to get the unholy god-making tools that he was protecting. Number 4, veneration of the Daedra, saints and ancestors. While challenging the divinity of the tribunal, the dissidents do not challenge the sainthood or heroism of the tribunal. In fact, the dissident priests advocate restoring many of the elements of fundamentalist ancestor worship as practiced by the Ashlanders and by Saint Veloth. Exactly how this would work is debated inconclusively within the dissident priests. So the Ashlanders and the Dunmer of the past worshipped the Daedra, which are like the kind of actual gods, both good and evil, of the Elder Scrolls series. And they do take part in quite a few different quests throughout the series. But the temple wants the Dunmer to instead worship them, or the tribunal. Number 5, denial of the prophecies of the Incarnate and persecution of the Nerevarines. Though no consensus exists among the dissidents about whether the Nerevarine prophecies are genuine, all agree that the persecution of the Nerevarine is unjust and politically motivated. The dissident priests do not reject mysticism, revelation, or prophecy as part of the religious experience. The dissidents have not resolved the issue of true or false insights. They have studied the mysticism of the Ashlander ancestral cults, in particular the rites of the Ashlander seers and wise women, and the prophecies of the Incarnate. Many among the dissident priests have come to believe that the Nerevarine prophecies are genuine and have made a systemic study of prophecies recorded in temple archives. Number 6, authority of the Archcanon and the Ordinators. The dissident priests reject the authority of the Archcanon and the Ordinators. The temple hierarchy has been corrupted by self-interest and politics, and no longer acts in the best interests of the temple or its worshippers. The dissident priests believe the Archcanon and Ordinators speak for themselves, not for the tribunal. And the Ordinators are the special guards that hang out in the city of Vivec, and presumably in Mournhold, where Sothasil and Almalexia are hanging out. In fact, something I completely forgot to mention is in the city of Vivec, you can actually go and talk to Vivec, one of the leaders of the Tribunal Temple. Number 7, the Inquisition and the use of terror and torture by the Ordinators. Within the temple hierarchy, it is an open secret that the Ordinators rely on abduction, terror, torture, and secret imprisonment to discourage heresy and dissent. The dissident priests feel the Ordinators are either out of control or tools used to maintain a corrupt priesthood in power. And finally, number 8. Fundamentals of temple doctrine, charity for the poor, education for the ignorant, protection for the weak. Though the dissident priests acknowledge that most rank-and-file priests honor the best traditions of the temple, they believe that many priests in higher ranks are interested more in love of authority and luxury than in the welfare of the poor, weak, and ignorant. So, that suggests that they think the people that are higher up in the temple itself are more after their own gain than the fundamentals the temple was originally formed for. And those would be the 2 different books that I got as part of the Vivec Informants quests. And now that sheds a little more light on, I guess, what is going on in the background that is making all of the main quest stuff happen. Like, these are all the bits and bobs, I guess, of why Caius wants you to go around and find information about stuff like Dagoth-Ur and the Sixth House and the Nerevarine cults and how it all works together. But now I've read that out. I'm actually recording this after I have finished recording part 17. So in the next couple of videos, I'm not really going to mention much about what we've just heard today. But from parts 18 and on, it's going to be fresh after having read through these 2 books for you. So, as always, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.